When they decided to do Fighting Part 3, there actually were some alternate ideas tossed around before they came up with the final script. Originally, Steve Miner wanted to take the character of Ginny Field from the second film, which was played by Amy Steele. The idea was to sort of have her have to deal with her experiences of dealing with Jason. She's now in a sanitarium, and she's having nightmares and visions, and murder started occurring in the sanitarium. They don't know, is it somebody else, is it Jason? But they sort of decided that that wouldn't really give the fans what they wanted. Also, they couldn't secure the return of Amy Steele. She didn't want to return to the role at the time. So when the filmmakers were thinking about Fighting Part 3, they realized they kind of needed a new hook for the film. They needed something different and new to bring the fans in. They couldn't just repeat exactly the same formula. So they realized at the time that 3D had sort of kind of been reborn in the theaters. Frank Mancuso Sr., who was the head of production at Paramount at the time, saw that and realized, hey, this would be a great idea. You know, we could merge 3D with one of our big franchises. And he looked at the product that he had, and Friday the 13th seemed to be the perfect fit. It was an audience participation film. Had a lot of objects and instruments being, put into the camera all the time.
I had a neighbor in Buffalo, New York, who said to me one time, he was running the local branch of Paramount Pictures, if I ever become CEO of Paramount, we're going to make 3D movies. We're going to make 70 millimeter movies like they did in the old days, and I'll take you with me. And believe it or not, which is even more of a Hollywood story than the movie is that Frank Mancuso did become the head CEO of Paramount Pictures, and he kept his promise, and he brought everybody out there, and one of the first films that we did was Friday the 13th in 3D. What was so exciting about shooting Friday the 13th is we wanted to take a new approach to shooting 3D. We all got together and decided the movie should be shot on a Lumicrane, which permitted the camera to do all kinds of incredible moves, and the camera, Steve Miner never wanted the camera stable. He wanted it to move and have that horror feeling. We decided that since we were working with a brand new camera that had just come out at the time, a new Aeroflex BL, which was very, very tiny and handheld, how would we come up with a system that could fit on it to maintain that free look of motion? This is the adapter unit that actually fit on the front of the Aeroflex camera, and you can see how light it is. It's very, very light. It was all electronically controlled. They could do all the strange things. They could bring spears out and arrows out and all kinds of incredible things. It's very light. It permitted the camera to move all the time. It's working out so well that it's being used today on the new Arri cameras, which are all digital.
The film was so technical with the 3D, and it was a 3D process that no one had ever done before, and that was really where everyone's focus was, and there wasn't a lot of focus on the acting. Insert joke here.
Fighting Part 3 had the most arduous shoot of any of the Friday the 13th films. The 3D took a very, very long time to set up. I mean, takes would take hours and hours and hours to light and create. So I think for the actors, it was a difficult experience at times because a lot of attention was paid towards the technical aspect and not the performance aspect. So, for example, characters had to do death scenes over and over again. I know, for example, Richard Brooker, who played Jason, had to, poker stab someone 30, 40 times.
The one scene where the girl walks into the living room and she gets stabbed in the stomach with a red-hot poker. The actual scene of the poker going into the lens, if I can remember correctly, and we're going back, 25 years now, we did 32 takes of that. 32 takes just to make sure that we got the 3D effect.
When we had to do stuff that was directly 3D, meaning going right to the camera, it was very difficult because if you don't go right to the camera, it doesn't work. So there's a scene where I have to throw the wallet in the store, and that was just take after take because if it doesn't go right into the camera, it's not working. And then the juggling the oranges, and you're throwing them, and it was a high ceiling, so you're throwing them 10 feet in the air, trying to get to the camera, and you just kept going and kept going until they had enough. It was tough to set up and tough to do, but it's fun.
The crew was worried about the 3D. I was also worried about the cast that they were not going to get hurt because we kept shooting the same thing over and over and over again, that they were padded properly, that they were not really going to get killed. I had to work with the stunt man, the stunt coordinator, and I did all the stunts myself in making sure that they were, that they were protected and that they would work and they wouldn't harm them underneath. Like when the girl hangs from the rafter, I had to go into the harness myself and hang for a couple and make sure, and I was really uncomfortable at some points.
I came up with the theory that Jason never runs. Jason is just there. Steve Miner made a very good point, and even in the casting session, the casting director said, well, can't we use a double for, the scenes where we actually don't need Richard? And Steve Miner said, no. He said, I want him there all the time. Right in the beginning of the movie where he's taking down the laundry, his wife looks out the window and sees the shadow behind the sheet. And that was me. That wasn't a double or one of the crew members or anything else like that. That was me.
When we first started the show, we were told that Stan Winston was going to sculpt Jason's makeup, which was wonderful. Stan was one of my mentors back at that time. Stan was brought in to strictly just sculpt Jason's makeup and then paint it at the end.
The original Stan Winston mask, which was used for the alternate ending, was never used. In fact, the Stan Winston mask was never seen in the film at all.
There's actually 3 Jason makeups in the movie. The first one is Stan's makeup that you see in the alternate ending. The second one is in Dana's flashback sequence, where it was overlaid over her face. And then the third one is the final one at the end of the movie, where Jason gets hung and lifts the mask up, and then Dana's further dream sequence at the end when he comes out of the house.
We had a great time. For most of us, it was our first film, or first or second. I think only Dana had a lot of credits prior. And we just all hang out in the dressing rooms because there are long delays between shots, and it was, so we were having fun. We were just we'd talk, and I think every day I asked Tracy Savage to marry me, and every day she turned me down. I asked Marty and Carol, I said, come on, can we write a scene where Shelley actually gets the girl? No amount of bribery would get that done. They were like, people will believe the homicidal maniac comes back from the dead. They will not believe that Shelley gets to kiss Vera.
I was in blood constantly. And because it was in a lot of night shooting, and you're carrying clothes full of dripping with blood, and then you're washing blood, and you're putting more blood in it, and the hours are going by, and more blood is going by, and I'm like, by the end of the 3 months, I was having extreme nightmares.
Oh, the nature of doing these kind of movies, that you always have to do blood effects. Blood effects donates that you're using artificial blood. Artificial blood has red dye in it. I don't care how much soap you add to it, surfactants or anything else you have, dye is dye. They always ask you, will it wash out? I'll tell them no. Because I'm sure Sandy had a field day trying to wash everything out.
I don't know how many tanks we must have gone through. Excuse me.
Oh, I'm sure I went through probably 15, 20 gallons of blood at least.
The ending changed 3 times from the original ending.
The film is basically the same up to the end where Chris thinks she defeats Jason. She hits him in the head with an axe and she goes to go to sleep. Then she wakes up, and at that point, that's when the endings really veer off. The original scripted ending had her waking up and going into the barn and discovering all her friends are dead. And Jason returns, and she actually decapitates him with a sickle.
Which you can read in the novelization if you ever catch up on that.
But the producers at the time felt that that would be too definitive in terms of killing Jason. They wanted to leave it open. So when it came down to shoot a new ending, Petru Popescu devised an idea of having Chris wake up in a canoe. She thinks she's safe. She runs to the lodge, and she sees Rick.
Even though we know he's dead, but she sees him in the house, and she gets out of the canoe and runs down in front of the cabin, and you see Rick in the house running parallel.
And the camera tracks them both, and then she runs to the front door, opens it, expecting to see Rick. And it's actually Jason.
And he takes her head off.
And then she wakes up. It's just all been a dream. And they actually filmed this ending.
Why they didn't use it, I don't know. I remember watching them filming, and it was terrific, and I thought that it would have been great. The
producers decided that they really want to kind of go back to the classic idea of Jason kind of bursting through something or coming out of the water. So they scrapped that ending, and they devised a new one, which has Chris waking up again in the canoe. she sees Jason at the window, and suddenly he disappears, and she doesn't know what's going on, and Mrs. Voorhees pops out of the water at her, sort of recreating the ending of the original Friday the 13th, where Jason jumps out of the water. So it sort of brings the whole idea full circle.
Part 3 was the most successful of any of the sequels to Friday the 13th until you got to Freddy vs. Jason. But at the time, it was really, really successful. It was the #1 movie the week it came out. It was #1 the week after it came out, and it actually came out the same exact weekend as Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
I was so excited to get a call from Frank Mancuso the weekend, Sunday I think it was, of the opening week, and he said to me, 28. And I said, 28? You mean 28 screens didn't work? And he goes, no, we've done $28 million. And what's amazing to me right now in 2008 is that movies have opened all this year with an opening weekend of $7 million. And so would you realize what $28 million means in 1982 money? Those theaters went sold out for the entire weekend, to the point that we ran out of glasses on Sunday night and had to get the Polaroid Corporation to work overtime to get glasses to the theater.
I didn't really have a movie career. This was my one big role, and then I sort of faded into obscurity. But I wanted to be an actor, and it didn't happen. And I'm happy as a lawyer now. But that I have this role that, you know, I was the one who, as I say, gave Jason his hockey mask. So I have that little part of film history, which is great. And people, you know, I get emails from all over the world from people who go, "Hey, you gave Jason the hockey mask."
None of us knew at that time, I don't think even in the other franchises, that it would start living a life of its own like that. Looking back, to be part of that was just a cool thing.